Hello, crochet lovers. So, for crocheters who are either beginners or maybe not beginners, but maybe they don't necessarily have a grasp on every single formulaic notion within crochet, I have something that I would like to share that I recently really broke down and understood well for myself. So when I started crocheting, this has to do with counting stitches when crocheting in the round and how to easily relocate yourself if ever you're crocheting, given that when you crochet you need to count stitches in most cases. And so if, for instance, you're crocheting in the round and I don't know, maybe you're lost, maybe your mind kind of zoned out as you were crocheting and you need to kind of reorient yourself about the amount of stitches that you need to have in this particular round, or the amount of increases or stitches, like singular stitches you need to have within this round of however many stitches. So this is a method, this is the formula that I have understood finally and that I would like to share. So when I started crocheting, I have kind of a brain that's wired towards seeing patterns. So I was seeing the pattern. I had a vague idea of the fact that there was a mathematical equation here, but the ideas that I had the wrong equation. And finally, I found the right one. I know it now, and it is applicable in every single case. Every single case meaning no matter the amount of initial stitches you have, this is the formula. So before I just talk about the formula, for people who don't really understand the principle of increases in the round and how do you increase in the round and that process that's repeated in every single project where you're going to increase in the round, I just want to quick reminder of how that works. So when you're increasing in the round, first you have your initial number of stitches. In amigurumi, it's often going to be 6, but it can be any number. So any number, you initially have a certain number of stitches. The first increase round is always going to be doubling those stitches. And you double those stitches by putting 2 new stitches in one of those initial stitches. The next increase round is going to be 1 singular stitch plus 1 increase. And then the next increase round is going to be 2 singular stitches plus 1 increase. Then the next increase round is going to be 3 singular stitches plus 1 increase. And it goes that way until you want to stop increasing. So that is the general process of how to increase in crochet. Now, in the round, specifically in the round, when you are now wanting to easily pinpoint the amount of stitches that you need to have per round, this is where that formula that I was talking about comes in. So, like I was explaining, the process of increasing is, and I actually forgot to mention one part. The process of increasing is the first increase round is 2 stitches in 1 initial stitch. The second one is 1 singular stitch plus 1 increase. And this thing that I'm describing, that's just the one iteration. So you're going to repeat that increase or that singular stitch plus increase times the amount of initial stitches. So if you have 6 initial stitches, you're going to, for the first round of increases, you're going to do 1 increase in each stitch. So that's going to be 6 times increases. Then the following round is going to be 1 singular stitch plus 1 increase 6 times. And then the following round is going to be 1 or 2 singular stitches plus 1 increase 6 times. Always 6 times. So you repeat that pattern 6 times, it finishes your round. And so now, like I said, to pinpoint the amount of stitches that you need, the formula is the pattern times the initial amount of stitches. That gives you the number of stitches that you need in the round. So when I say the pattern, so if we're in the first increase round, the pattern is increase. So increase, an increase equals 2 stitches. An increase is always 2 stitches in the same stitch. So 1 increase times the initial stitches, that's 2 times the initial stitches. That will give you the amount of stitches you should have in the first increase round. The second increase round, you're going to do the pattern for the second increase round is 1 singular stitch plus 1 increase. That equals 3 stitches. So you're going to do 3 stitches times the initial number of stitches, and that will give you the amount of stitches that you should have in this round. So if the initial number of stitches is 6, the second round of increases should be 3 times 6. So you should have 18 stitches. Now, if you've been crocheting for a while and you potentially already know like the pattern of increases, you already know that if I have 6, it's going to be 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36. It always increases by 6. But if ever, this is just another way of trying to reorient yourself. There's a bunch of different, hacks or... I forget the word. I have the word in French, not in English. Anyway, these ways of helping you quickly pinpoint where you are in your crocheting. So this can help you find out, this formula can help you find out not only the number of stitches that you need per increase, per increase round, but it can also help you figure out, it can also help you know, just from seeing the pattern itself, or rather working back from the number of stitches. If you're working back from the number of stitches, you can also know what the pattern should be. So it works both ways. The pattern can tell you the number of stitches you need, and then from the number of stitches you need, you can also know what is the pattern. So if you know that you have 36 stitches, so for instance, someone says to you, okay, 36 stitches in this round. If you know that your initial number of stitches is 6, you divide 36 times 6, and that is 6. And so if you have 6 stitches repeated 6 times, gets you to 36, you know that that's going to be 4 singular stitches plus 1 increase. Because 4 singular stitches plus an increase equals 6 stitches, given that an increase equals 2 stitches. I hope that this is making sense. I really hope that this is making sense. So I don't know, say for instance you have 55 stitches and you're working, and this could also even help you know the amount of, I'm just realizing this as I'm thinking. This formula can also help you know the amount of initial stitches that was in this pattern. If, for instance, I don't know, you're trying to reverse engineer a pattern. If you have 55 55 stitches in this round, and when you look at it, so 55, and I'm just imagining okay, so imagine that the initial number of stitches was 11. So 11 times 5 equals 55. So what is that going to mean? That's going to mean that the amount of stitches that I'm seeing in front of me is what? I'm losing myself right now. Oh my gosh. Wait, what is it going to be? If I have 11 stitches as the initial stitches, or maybe not even, okay, no, let's stick to 11. We have 11 stitches as the initial stitches. And now we're at the round where it's 55 stitches. So that's going to mean that, I mean, if it's 5, it's going to be three initial stitches plus 1 increase. So yeah, that's what it's going to mean. 3 initial stitches plus 1 increase. That's 5 stitches. 5 times 11. So the initial amount of stitches, rather, we're going to be working back from 55 divided by 5. And we're going to see that, okay, it's 11. Sorry, I tried to freestyle this without like writing down this example, but I hope that the people who are perhaps mathematically oriented understood what I was trying to get at. So yes, again, I was trying to work back from the number of stitches. I know the number of stitches that I have, and in front of me, I can see a repeating pattern of three singular stitches plus 1 increase. And if I see that repeating pattern, I just add up the number of stitches that I see there. So that's 5. And I divide 55 by 5, and that will give me 11. And I'll know that the initial number of stitches was 11 stitches. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for that little thingy. But yes, that was essentially it. I hope that this was somewhat informative. I mean, I know that it is actually informative. And I just hope that it was clear, despite that little moment where I got confused in my example because I didn't prepare ahead of time. So I was doing the thinking on the spot. But yes, I hope that this, maybe unlocks something for someone. I was so happy when I finally put my finger on the pattern. I was like, oh my gosh, I knew that there was something. I get it now. Yeah. At first, let me actually explain to you what was the mistake that I was making when I was first trying to decipher the pattern. I thought that every single the final number of stitches, once you reach an increase within a particular round, I thought that number would always add up to a multiple of the initial stitches, which is not the case. And so I was like, okay, that's not the right formula. So for instance, like let's say the initial number of stitches was 6, and I mean, doesn't it always add up? Now I'm like, girl, wait, it's 6, 1. Let me stop talking. Let me not keep doing this to you guys, thinking on the spot. Or let me do it, okay? Maybe you don't mind. Maybe you don't mind. Some people won't mind. The people who mind will sign off. The people who won't mind will stay. Okay, so let me try to do the math. So let's say the initial number of stitches is 6, and we're on the second round of increases. Second round of increases, even the first round of increases is enough. Now, let's go from the second. The second round, so that's 1 plus 1, 2. 1, 2 is an increase. So 1 plus 1, 2 is 3. So 3 is a multiple of 6, or is divisible. 1, 1, 2, that's 6, obviously. 1, 1, 2, 9. Okay, so 9. 9 is not a multiple of 6. So that's why I would always be like, when I would get to those numbers where it's not a multiple of the number, I was like, it's not adding up. But I can tell that many of the numbers that I end up on, they're part of the family of this number, like, but it's not. And then finally one day I realized that it's just the initial pattern. It's just that initial pattern, the number of stitches that you see in each one of the iterations that you're doing. That is what counts. It's not the number that it lands on. And yeah, I started doing the math with every single row and different projects, and I was like, got it. I got it. Okay, anyway, so this is for people who crochet and people who enjoy math. Thank you for bearing with that. Happy crocheting.